Hello and welcome back to Insurance in Canada. I'm your host, Rick Pineda. Thank you for joining me. On today's episode, we are looking at three stories. Our first story regarding aviation insurance and how the market for aviation insurance is starting to soften. Our next story, we'll be looking at the forest fires taking place right now in Musgrave Harbour in Newfoundland. And our last story for today, the Insurance Bureau of Canada is pushing the federal government to create a disaster recovery agency to deal with natural disasters. So without further ado, let's take a look at insurance in the news. So our first story for today, we're looking at aviation insurance. Aviation insurance has had issues over the last few years regarding a hardening market, more restrictions in acceptance by insurance companies, higher rates, but it looks like a change is coming in aviation insurance. Aviation insurance rates hit a low point, but a shift is coming. Brokers urge to prepare for rising rates, client coverage gaps. Aviation aircraft insurance in Canada is currently enjoying its most competitive stretch in 5 years, but that window may be closing soon. Caleb Winterburn, Vice President of Aviation Insurance at Covalent, warns that while capacity remains high, charts suggest a market reset ahead. We may see increases in the next 2 years. Winterburn said the insurance market, especially in aviation, typically cycles between soft and hard markets every 7 to 11 years. So, for those of you who are not familiar with the concept of soft and hard markets in insurance, hard market is a period where insurance companies pull back from the market in terms of restricting the type of risk they want to insure, increasing rates. So not a good time for insureds or for brokers for that matter trying to place risk. Soft market, once rates have stabilized, once claim costs have somewhat stabilized, you may go through a period of a soft market. So soft market, the underwriting restrictions get relaxed. Rates may come down during a soft market. So good time for the insureds, the general public, as well as for brokers as well, trying to place those risks and maintain the business as well. Underpinning the soft market is fierce competition intensified by tech innovation. Quotes that once took days are now issued in as little as 5 minutes. So, yeah, that's something you see in other areas of insurance as well, in commercial insurance especially. Simpler risks have become easier to quote as the insurance companies adopt technology to make those quoting processes more automated and easier for brokers to obtain. On the personal line side, that's been available for a long time, but commercial insurance, it's much more complicated usually than personal lines insurance. So homeowners, tenants, condo, automobile, personal lines, private passenger, automobile. Those are generally seen as less complicated risks than commercial lines insurance. So commercial lines insurance is always going to be more difficult to obtain a quote just because of the process involved as opposed to personal lines. But once again, even on the personal line side, technology is improving the ability for brokers and agents to obtain quotes quicker and more accurately. Previously, it could take anywhere from 24 hours to a week to get a quote. Now we're able to provide quote in 60 minutes or less, sometimes even as fast as 5 minutes, Winterburn said. For brokers, this isn't just about speed, it's a competitive differentiator. Faster turnaround translates into faster policy issuance and faster flights. Winterburn, a licensed fixed wing and helicopter pilot, said that pilot licensing dropped sharply during the pandemic. I guess that's not a huge surprise. It'd be kind of difficult for people to obtain their pilot's license with all the pandemic restrictions that occurred during that time. But demand quickly rebounded as private buyers, especially cottage-bound professionals, returned to the market. Transport Canada data shows over 37,000 registered aircraft and 25,000 licensed pilots in Canada by the end of 2023. Aircraft movements rose 5.5% to 5.5 million, nearly 90% of pre-pandemic levels according to Transportation Safety Board. For brokers, that signals the rising demand and renewed risk exposure in aviation, although I wonder how increasing costs to uh, run and maintain an aircraft, especially with inflation and the current tariff situation, how that might impact uh, people's ability to be able to afford to fly. While overall market conditions remain competitive, Winterburn warned that many owners, especially those using generalist brokers, gravitate towards liability-only policies, leaving significant coverage gaps. Non-specialist brokers often quote very high premiums for comprehensive packages, he said. Without comprehensive coverage, there's no salvage recovery. Covalent has responded with a joint Aviation Canada insurance program developed with COPA. To fill these gaps, it offers features like 100% hull value for forced landings and avionics protection, priced accurately to drive uptake. Yeah, liability only means there's no coverage for the actual aircraft itself, just the liability arising from the use or ownership. So, yeah, that's a risk some uh, aircraft owners might have to take if they can't afford to really, uh, you know, pay for the full insurance when it comes to aviation insurance. But boy, aircrafts are really expensive to try and not take full coverage on those. In hail-prone provinces such as Alberta, insurers increasingly offer hangar discounts, rewarding risk mitigation through storage. Underwriting is becoming more nuanced. Data for common models like the Cessna 172 or Piper P828 now inform pricing, but Winterburn stressed that experienced underwriters offer added value. That's You can say that in any part of insurance, that's for sure. After the drone boom of 2014 to 2018, demand has matured. Winterburn explained the bigger winners were often the ones offering drone pilot licensing courses. Now, commercial use in real estate and agriculture is leading to more stable pricing and coverage frameworks. While Transport Canada establishes operational minimums, it's the insurers who take those standards further. Insurance companies then build on those standards, often requiring more stringent conditions to further reduce risk. That layered approach has become essential in a landscape shaped by tighter margins, rising claims, and growing owner sophistication. And for now, competitive pricing remains, but not without caveats. As Canada's aviation insurance landscape shifts, brokers find themselves at the intersection of pricing pressure and growing client expectation. Those who move beyond speed to offer tailored risk-informed guidance are most likely to retain trust and win new business. If there's any aircraft owners, fixed wing, rotary wing aircraft owners watching, you can maybe comment on your experience over the last few years, what your experience has been like regarding insurance costs, whether you've seen them relaxing or whether you've seen them increasing, or what your particular experience and in what particular part of the country you're experiencing that. I would always appreciate those comments as well, to give your own personal experience firsthand from the insured side. Our next story coming from Musgrace Harbour in Newfoundland. July is always the season of natural disasters. Doesn't matter what part of the country we're talking about. This is usually when we start seeing them in its various forms, whether we're talking about hailstorms in Alberta, floods in Quebec, or forest fires, wildfires in various parts of the country. It's usually this time of the year is when we're going to see it the most. Wet, humid weather helps crews battle out of control wildfires, says fire duty officer. Wes Morgan says Musgrave Harbour fire is 1,660 hectares in size. I'm more familiar with acres and hectares. I guess I should have took a look to see what the equivalent is. As the weather turns wet and humid, firefighters will be on the ground to battle the out-of-control wildfires threatening two Newfoundland communities, says the provincial fire duty officer. Wes Morgan said the area around Chance Harbour did get the anticipated rainfall crews expected Monday, which is having a real positive impact on fighting the fire. Bad weather makes good firefighting weather, Morgan told CBC. Relative humidity and the weather that's out there right now is really helping to keep that fire at bay and really giving us an opportunity to really do some real firefighting out there, which is good news to hear. Up to 22 firefighters are on the ground Tuesday laying down hoses and putting out pumps. He added they will still have aerial support. The provincial wildfire dashboard lists the chance Harbour fire at 1,820 hectares in size, an increase from Monday by 20 hectares. Morgan said he's hoping the fire remains stable, allowing firefighters to get into the area. The Ragged Harbour fire, which prompted the community of Musgrace Harbour to evacuate over the weekend, is now reported to be 1,660 hectares, while the fire has previously been reseeded as 1,800 hectares. Morgan said it has not shrunk. So I would imagine firefighting wildfires in the Maritimes is a different experience than it is trying to deal with wildfires in the prairie provinces, northern Ontario, northern Quebec, just because the humidity factor on the Maritimes is different than what we see in the prairie provinces in northern Ontario. In the summer, drier conditions would exist in the prairie provinces in northern Ontario, northern Quebec, making the chance of having a rainfall come in to assist the firefighters in trying to control the fire would be a lot different than in the Maritimes. Even on the West Coast, so the West Coast is not quite the same thing as the Maritimes when it comes to humidity in the summer months. It can get quite dry in British Columbia during the summer months. So, but that's just my observation. If we have any firefighters have firefighting wildfire firefighting experience in the Maritimes, who can shed some insight into my observation, whether I'm somewhat close to being correct or totally off my rocker, please let me know in the comments section. The fire was a very fast-moving fire during the onset, and there was a lot of smoke in the area. So in the last day or so, with some of that smoke dissipating, we're able to get a much finer detail in the map area. The area map itself, said Morgan. He said the fire is still 2 kilometers from town. There will be many firefighters working there on the ground, he said, who will focus on the fire's northern flank, which is the area closest to the town. He added there will be crews putting down hoses and pumps on the eastern and western side for fire suppression work. That is the plan for today. Morgan said he could not give residents an estimate on when they would be able to return to Musgrave Harbour or Chance Harbour. Morgan said the province-wide fire ban is still in effect. So my prayers go out to the folks in Newfoundland, Musgrave Harbour, Chance Harbour, hoping that the fire leaves your towns alone, because I've seen the devastation in the prairie provinces in Alberta, what wildfires can do, and so I'm hoping that it passes you folks by, or that the firefighters out there are able to protect these smaller communities. So like I said, my prayers go out to you folks. So, yep, that's what's going on in Newfoundland. Our last story: Canada needs a national disaster agency to tackle climate-driven emergency. IBC, the Insurance Bureau of Canada. The call comes ahead of the anniversary of the Jasper wildfire. The Insurance Bureau of Canada is calling for the creation of a federal disaster recovery agency, warning that climate change is fueling more frequent and costly extreme weather events that are overwhelming communities and the country's insurance system. Ahead of the first anniversary of the wildfire that devastated Jasper, Alberta, the industry group is urging the federal government to take the lead in coordinating emergency preparedness and long-term rebuilding efforts. Canada needs a federal coordinating agency to guide emergency preparedness and recovery, said Greg Stewart, IBC's Vice President of Climate Change and Federal Issues. Every other G7 country has an agency operating in this capacity. It's time for Canada to follow suit and take on a proactive approach to emergency management. Personally, I disagree with what the IBC is trying to push. In my opinion, disaster recovery should be the responsibility of the provinces and the territories. They are the government that is most familiar with the areas that are being affected, have the representatives, the local knowledge, more than the federal government would have. I really don't see what a Canadian version of FEMA would really contribute in terms of disaster recovery. I really don't like having the federal government encroaching on the provincial jurisdiction any more than they have to. I mean, if the federal government wishes to provide funding for the disaster recovery, uh, all the all the better. But like I said, in terms of coordination, uh, actual implementation of a disaster recovery plan, in my opinion, that should be the purview of the provincial and territorial governments. They're the ones who really should be spearheading that, but that's just my opinion. What's your opinion? Do you think I'm off? Do you agree with what the IBC is trying to push? Carry on. The call comes amid growing concerns over the slow pace of recovery in Jasper. The July 22nd, 2024 wildfire destroyed roughly a third of the town's building and caused an estimated 1.2 billion in insured losses. A year later, only 56 building permits have been issued out of the 358 structures lost, a sharp contrast to the 2016 Fort McMurray fire, where most reconstruction, was underway within the first year despite the destruction of more than 2,400 buildings. But it's my understanding the delay when it comes to the Jasper rebuilding is Jasper is located in or near a national park. So that is one reason for the delay in Jasper that you didn't see in Fort McMurray. Is Fort McMurray does not have to go through the same restrictions that Jasper has to because they are located inside a national park. So I'm not sure if the article is going to mention that, but that's my understanding anyways for the delay. As rebuilding lags, IBC warned that some residents may soon exhaust their additional living expense coverage, while businesses could reach the end of their business interruption coverage. If you're not familiar with those particular terms, additional living expense is part of the habitational policy. So homeowners, condo unit owners, tenants policies, there is a limit provided for any additional expenses that the insured incurs from having to live elsewhere while their house, their unit, is being repaired, whatever that's covered by damage that's covered under the policy. So, but there is a maximum amount that that particular coverage covers. Same thing, business interruption, so that covers loss of revenue, loss of profit, depending on how it's actually set up. The business interruption coverage, because an insured event prevents the business from carrying on with the running of the business. So important coverage for commercial policies. Not every commercial policy is going to have business interruption coverage. For some businesses, it doesn't make sense. For instance, like for contractors whose all their work is done on the road, they don't have a workshop or anything. Everything is done on the road. So carpenters, they travel to a particular location to do their work. They don't necessarily need business interruption. They may need it, may not. But additional living expense, that's normally part of every habitational policy. It's just part of the package policy. The Jasper fire was one of several major disasters in 2024 that contributed to a record 8.5 billion in insured damages, which is by far the highest annual total on record. The IBC linked the increasing financial toll to climate change-driven weather volatility, rising construction costs, and delays in rebuilding timelines. In addition to calling for federal coordination, the Bureau also urged all levels of government to invest more in wildfire protection measures, including fire break construction and land use restrictions in high-risk areas. And in my opinion, that's money much more well spent in doing wildfire prevention than creating another level of bureaucracy. So let's put that tax money to better use in more practical solutions than, like I said, creating another level of bureaucracy that, in my opinion, is really not going to solve much and may even create more complications, more friction between different levels of government, different agencies. Why go through all that? Let's just, like I said, put that money to better use. And that is it for me for today. I want to thank you for joining me. If you like what I do here, please leave a like on this video. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment in the comments section. Let me know what you like, what I'm doing, what you don't like, what areas you think I can improve. Don't forget to follow Insurance in Canada on X/Twitter. And until next time, bye-bye.